Hi everyone, I'm Natalia and welcome to my channel. Today, I would like to talk to all of you about experiencing, and perhaps some of you have experienced or continue to experience feelings of shame and guilt, or maybe fear of being judged when you share with other people that you have a tarot practice, or when you share with other people that you do tarot or that you use tarot in any shape or form. I want to especially open discussion for this, if anybody would like to do a video response, for two things. One, I released a vlog this morning, and in that vlog, I talked about displaying books on a bookshelf, but yet feeling a fear of being judged displaying tarot. And I was surprised how many people commented and said that they either feel shame or they have, most likely, oftentimes, they have big sense of fear that others are going to judge them, that others are going to find them superficial, that others are going to think that they are not smart by using tarot, or that others are going to project their perception that this is evil, that this is unholy, ungodlike onto them. One of the individuals even commented that, and I hope I'm paraphrasing correctly, that they did a service for them in the church by trying to, I guess, whip out, ideally, the evil out of them, because they're dealing with such a devilish thing, and they were trying to collectively help them to exorcise themselves of evil. And I was surprised and not surprised at the same time. Part of me was very surprised because I have never experienced anything to that extreme. And I was also not surprised because I am not religious, and I am uh, not in a communities where people are religious or follow religious beliefs, to at least to the extent of going to church. And therefore, I don't experience that the way this individual had. I was also thinking about how this conversation ties to movies that's coming out, Tarot. And if you haven't seen it, look up trailer. A lot of people have been tagging me on Instagram and sharing it and asking me for my thoughts. I don't really have any thoughts about that movie. I've seen a lot of people having conversation around it in a sense that it's going to give a lot of people who are on a religious end an ammunition to demonize tarot, and ammunition to talk about this, to go after this, to weaponize this. My understanding is that the movie is about kids using tarot and then breaking some tarot rules. I don't know what. Maybe they didn't knock on the deck 3 times or didn't sage the deck. Maybe they broke a rule, the mythological rule of tarot, that they purchase their own deck. I have no idea. But they apparently broke some tarot rules, which all of us know there is no such thing as tarot rules. And apparently they unleashed some kind of demonic forces that are now chasing them in order to annihilate them. Quite powerful thing. When I only saw about milliseconds of the trailer, but when I saw the beginning of the trailer, they have this tarot deck laid out in a circle. And the first thought that I had, and I'm sure that almost every single tarot person had when they watched the trailer, is, ooh, what kind of tarot deck is that? Most of us are such collectors and such acquirers of this because we know it's such a great tool, and we're more interested in art, in design, in rendition of archetypes than we are in anything so-called evil of the deck. How many of you, seeing the trailer, thought, what tarot deck is that? If you know, let me know. I will buy it. And then I want to do a whole episode psychologizing heck out of it, showing what a great psychological tool it is, not an evil one. But going back to this discussion of shame and guilt, I thought how I have I'm never afraid to, let me rephrase it. I have never felt shame or guilt having this. And I've been having a relationship with this for 28 years. Never once had shame or guilt. I also don't really care if people are going to judge me. And I realize part of me doesn't care that people are going to judge me because I can easily wrap their heads multiple ways around a discussion how this is an absolute amazing psychological tool. And as a psychologist, I'm sure I'm going to spin their heads around multiple times. And I know that a lot of people, a lot of you watching, can also easily engage in discussion without fear of judgment and justify, rightfully so, why this is such a great tool. But I also know that one of the biggest differences between me and you, and where fear of judgment comes from more than anything, is that you are in a proximity. Your circle of proximity is in proximity maybe to your parents, to your siblings, maybe your partner, maybe your community you grew up in, your friends. So you're in proximity to people and a community that is holding on to belief that this is evil and bad, and you don't hold that belief. And because you're in proximity to people who you care so deeply about, I can completely understand how there would be a fear and a concern of sharing your practices, sharing who you are, sharing what interests you, sharing what drives you, sharing what your passions are with those people. Because we all, no matter how mature we are, we all want to belong. And we all want to be understood. And we all want to be seen and loved, even if our practices or our interests are not the same as somebody else's. And when one wants that belonging from people closest to them and knows potentially that they will get a different attitude, that can be terrifying. That can be really scary. That perception of being dismissed, perception of being disowned, perception of being cast out, that perception is strong. That is scary. Sorry. Let me just turn it off. So even though I don't know exactly what it's like, I can understand that fear and I can understand the discomfort. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart for you, but it breaks my heart even more so for our collective public, because it just shows again how collectively so many folks are still so incredibly ignorant. Forget ignorance about what this is. Lack of inquiry, lack of asking questions, lack of curiosity. What saddens me the most is that by far the majority of collective society perceives this as something they've been told and brainwashed to perceive it to be. And it breaks my heart because it's not just this. It's not just this. I see people lacking inquiry, mindfulness, openness, wonder, attempt to understand. I work with transgender adults, as many of you now know, gender, sexuality, particular interests somebody might have, particular hobbies, even particular aspirations. And that's what's so sad. It's so sad that so many people it's easy for them to make a choice to take what they heard as a fact versus utilize their self-agency, their power, their sense of why, their inquisitiveness. And I really hope those people will wake up. Now, none of us are perfect. I'm sure that there are some things that I'm blind to. And I'm sure that there are things that I don't question. And so are you. And that's just called being human. But my God, I think the important thing is to try to not quickly slam something down. Now, perhaps, who knows? Maybe this video is going to be watched not just by terror lovers, but by people who believe this is evil tool, and maybe by people who want to learn what it is. Because it's a special video made for those who don't know me by a clinical psychologist who spent 20 years in the field. And I'm very versed in psychology. And I'm very versed specifically in one of the most famous schools of psychology. Depth psychology, which is also known as Jungian psychology after Carl Jung, and analytical psychology following Sigmund Freud. Now, Sigmund Freud was the father, well, people call him father. He invented psychotherapy talk, right? He invented talk therapy. You can say that the whole concept of therapy and what we know as therapy started with Freud. Freud and Jung, both, are individuals who were deeply embedded and invested in studying human unconscious. And to this day, there are branches and branches of schools dissenting from, especially from Freudian psychotherapy. Almost every single branch of psychotherapy touches on the unconsciousness, including cognitive behavioral therapy. Yes, if anybody ever studied the origin and the classic backdrop of cognitive behavioral therapy, knowing as CBT, undeniably, analytical psychology is there. So why am I talking about depth psychology and unconsciousness? Because for many, many years now, shrinks have been fascinated and been studying human behavior. Like I said, including not only unconsciousness, but also consciousness. Not only have we been studying it and continue to study it, but we have also been creating assessment tools. Now, I can share you images from this test because I'm not allowed to, believe it or not. It's prohibited, it even says in a box, to share plates. But this is called thematic apperception test. Google it. The images will come up. You know what this is? Let me describe what this is to you. This is a psychological testing tool for psychologists to use. This is full of black and white plates. They're not really plates, they're cardboard images. Look at that, Harvard University Press. Big deal. For those who think terror is evil, let's look at this. It's plates of black and white images that have a synthetic theme going on. For example, little girls stroking a kitten. I'm just making this up. And she's looking really sad. And there's the mother in the background watching her. Well, you show this so-called plate to a patient, and you ask them to describe what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what they think is the plot of a story, where they think the story is going. Essentially, what you're asking a patient to do is to project, to free associate onto the images. And the free association is tied to the internal world. And as a patient projects, psychologist takes notes, and that's how they're able to test numerous aspects of the self. Your temperament, your coping mechanism, your tendency to be depressed or anxious, you name it. List can go on and on. Well, you know, Aleister Crowley and Lady Freer Harris, or Pamela Coleman Smith and Arthur Wade, or Terry de Marseille. Those people were psychologists ahead of all of this time. Tarot was thematic perception tool. Before there was thematic perception tool, there was tarot. You want to hear something else? How about Rorschach? Everybody is familiar with Rorschach projective testing. You know those ink blots that look all bizarre, strange, and it looks like you're looking at a bat or you're looking at something else? And other projective tools. We still use it to this day as a valid clinical tool. We use this testing not only with patients, we also use this testing in court. When people evaluate folks and they do testing, they choose, they can administer any one of those tests as part of clinical data collection. The same thing, you're projecting. You're looking at an image, in this case, a very abstract, very out of sort image, and you project things onto it. For years and years and years, union analysts, so it's not picking up, have been studying projective drawings among kids' drawings. They have been writing The Way of the Image, fantastic books. They have been writing about art. Art therapy is another modality of psychotherapy, of the healing properties of not only drawing art, but also then talking about what you drew and projecting on the images. Look at this Introduction to Picture Interpretation, according to Jung, fantastic book. Draw Me a Picture, another great book for kids drawing. Children, interpreting children drawings. For years, and to this day, we continue to study projections in drawings, or we show patients images and ask them what they see and what they feel. I know this very, very well. And I know this very, very well because in graduate school, when I was finishing my doctorate degree, my dissertation was on projective drawings. I applied them toward trans adult population. But it was toward, it was utilizing projective drawing techniques. So I have accumulated a ton of books on projective drawings. So I'm here to tell you, it's all embedded in psychology. Now, of course, a lot of you already know this. I think part of me is sharing this with you because movie is going to come out. Maybe some loved ones already know what your practices are. And maybe you just need a little bit more ammunition to justify your practices. Maybe you can just point them to this video. And if you are that loved one watching this video, welcome. Now, it wasn't only shrinks who were interested in projective drawings and how our psyche, our mind, our sense of self likes to air itself and all its inner dirty laundry, including good or bad, on the images we see. But one of our best writers of all our time, Italo Calvino, has written a book using tarot cards as the main protagonist. Not only that, but there have been and continue to be people who are either psychologists, psychoanalysts, mental health providers who continue to write and talk the way I do about tarot in relationship to psychology, in relationship to our psyche. This book is written by Dr. Irene Gadd. She has MD from medical school in Bucharest, Romania, and her master's arts in psychology from Denver University. I know a lot of you know this book, Jung and Tarot, an archetypal journey by Sally Nichols. Sally Nichols, who is not only a Jungian analyst, and not only did she lecture on tarot and archetypes and psyche here at the Union Institute in Los Angeles. We have Union Institute here in Los Angeles, actually not too far from my home. But she's also a longtime student in Jung psychology. She had a good fortune to study at the Jung Institute in Zurich while Jung was still alive and active. We have books by great psychoanalysts, psychologists, mental health providers. I'm talking about what an amazing tool this is for us to explore who we are. Okay, so we know this is a great psychology tool, even if a lot of people still don't know this. And I know that the argument that people can make is that, yeah, I get it. You're shrink. You're using this as a psychological tool, and you're using this because you're learning about yourself. You're learning about your inner world. You are projecting onto this. You're doing self-exploratory, self-help type of work. That's fine. It's harmless. But what about all those people, my God, all those terrible, evil people who are using this for divination purposes? What about all those people who are trying to do predictive readings and they're trying to ask tarot to show them if they're going to win lottery, or ask tarot what they should do about this upcoming job position? Aren't they meddling with the devil? Well, my answer to all of that is, how is using this for guidance any different than praying to Almighty, praying to Jesus, praying to God, praying to Mother Mary, praying to Allah, praying to whatever it is Supreme God you see, and asking that Supreme Being to help you, to assist you, to answer your prayers, to show the way, to give you a sign that you should play that lottery? How is that different? How is that different? We're all lost until we're found. And the only thing that can find us is ourselves. And we're all searching. Whether we're searching using tarot deck or whether we're searching using a Bible, we're all lost. And those who claim to know it all and to know how to have this experience right don't know any more than you and I. And all they're preaching is what feels right to them. That's all it is. Now, that still doesn't solve the feelings of shame and guilt and fear of judgment that so many of you who are watching might be experiencing or feeling or have experienced at one time. And the truth is, nothing really will that I or anybody else is going to say. What's going to aid with that is your own inner really relationships to this. In a sense that one has to also accept aspects of themselves, even though there's a fear that others want. And that's hard. That is so hard. I know firsthand how difficult it is because all of the transgender adults that I work with experiencing the same dilemma. How do I tell people who I love? How do I tell my parents, my family, my siblings, my friends, my children that I've been struggling with this for years and years and years? How do I do it when I know that they're going to look at me and they're going to judge me, or they're going to say, I don't want anything to do with you, or you're sick, or you're unwanted, or you need to get mental health? It's no different than this. And it's all stemmed from the same things that I said earlier. It all stems from collective ignorance and, most of all, inability for inquiry, inability for wonder, inability for asking, being active participant in this life. So many of us are not actively participating in this life. So many of us are not even sleepwalking. Sleepwalking would have been even better. We're it's not even sleepwalking. It's more like being a blind followers and blindly following wherever somebody leads us somewhere. And it goes with a lot of things. Doctor said I should take this medication. I'm not even going to ask, is there any alternative medicine or is there anything you can do with diet and exercise to fix this problem? Somebody told me a pack of cards is evil. I'm not even going to ask why or where did that information come around. Somebody told me that that particular individual is inferior race. Ask. Say who? Say swear. Show me. None of us do that. I mean, I don't want to say it's a strong statement, none of us. Of course we do, but we need to do more of that, including myself. Shame is guilt sucks. And there are two different things in the same coin. Guilt is tied to behavior. I did something bad. Shame is tied to internal, I am bad. Shame is even worse than guilt because then you are tying relationship to something, to your inner self, versus guilt is just an external behavior. I don't have solution for anybody who feels shame and guilt or fear of judgment to being judged for this. I really don't, but I do have solution for anybody who is eager to judge others, whether it is tarot or their gender or their sexuality or anything else. And the solution is, before you point finger at somebody else, notice how there's always three fingers pointing back at you. And those three fingers always say way more about you than they do about the individual you're pointing at. So, what do you think? Have you felt these feelings? What helped you? Comment below. Maybe somebody else will read it and they'll find it helpful. What do you think about this movie coming out? Are you afraid that suddenly people are going to go and go after, I don't know, tarot community somehow and weaponize the tarot community for using tarot? It makes me want to offer a free tarot reading for everybody who is going to weaponize tarot. Doesn't it make you want to do that? I said it in my vlogs that society historically has done the same thing and will continue to do the same thing. And that's go after the minority groups and go after people with interests that put them on the outskirts, people that we call outliers. They're outliers. We use the term outliers because if you were to follow bell curve, right, on the end of the curve, there would be a minority of individuals, in this case with particular interest. And because they are on those outskirts and there's not that many of them, the majority cannot really understand, or in this case, doesn't want to understand the minority interests, or open up, or inquire. And so it's very easy to weaponize and dehumanize and to go after minority and minority interests. Because then you can, the more you do that, the more anybody who's in majority can feel united in majority. Look at us, we're fine, we're doing the right thing, they could justify their normalcy, whatever that is, doesn't exist. And it's a content space to be at, and to some extent comforting space to be at. Because if you don't ask and if you don't inquire, you're not pushing yourself in the zone of discomfort. And if you're not pushing yourself in the zone of discomfort, you don't grow. Most people don't want to grow. Sad truth. So comment, let me know what you think. What are your thoughts about the movie? Are you going to watch the movie? Do you know what tarot deck that is? I want to get the tarot deck. Let me know. Maybe you're the creator of the tarot deck. I'd love to know the tarot deck. Comment below if you want to do VR talking about shame and guilt. I would love to hear your thoughts because I think far more people than we realize feel that way. And especially fear of being judged. And I think if we collectively start talking about it, we will start deflating the balloon that is has a hold and power over this type of topic. And when everybody talks about it, it becomes not a big deal. And when it becomes not a big deal, it loses its power and hold over us. So share below your thoughts, what you're thinking, and I will see you all next time. Bye.